On the last episode of Home Help Diaries here on Links, we met Michelle and Claudia and got an introduction into what it's like to be a nanny in New York City. The ups, the downs, and the constant struggle. Since then, Michelle has lost her job, and Claudia, although still employed, has not been able to change her immigration status. This episode, we meet Pat and Kathy and listen to their journey and take a look inside their lives, what it's like to live and work as home help in New York. There has been more advocacy on behalf of home help workers and lots of changes in policy, but this job is anything but easy.
I came to the USA from Guyana in order to just to survive. I left Guyana because the situation in Guyana became so ridiculous that, it's hard to believe.
My reasons for coming to New York was on false pretense. My mother wanted me to come and help my sister out with the kids because she was told she was ill. And within a couple of days, I found out she was not ill. So I stayed after I found the opportunities here were better than in Barbados.
It was a devastating decision to have to leave Guyana. And when I came to the United States, it was difficult. It still is difficult. It was difficult because in Guyana, I didn't want to, I went to school. I didn't want to be a babysitter. I never wanted to be a nurse. It wasn't my thing. I loved my job, and it was devastating. I came. I had to be a babysitter. Being a babysitter it's a good job. I love children. I play with them, but being under the constant eye of the parent, and it's if you love to be in a home with other people over you and telling you what to do, it's a good job. But that there was something else in mind. There's something else you wanted to do because there's something else you love doing.
I decided to stay in New York because after working for a private contractor for a year, I was fired because I was told I was not aggressive enough. This was for a collection agency.
In 1986, I was in Barbados. I was trained as a weather forecaster. That's going to give me away. And while training, the amount of money that was given to me as a stipend while training to become a weather forecaster, when I went back to Guyana, I realized I was getting paid not even a quarter of that. As a matter of fact, in order for me to work for the same amount of money that I was given of a stipend, I had to work 2.5 years as a qualified weather forecaster to get the same amount of stipend that I got while I was training.
Here it's much more, you can go learn to do a computer course. I mean, you can do that in Barbados too, but you have more of an advantage here than back there. And then again, I would say it was cheaper to go learn something here. It could be ice making or cake or learning to sew. It's much cheaper here than it was in Barbados. So I saw a lot of possibilities. Clothes was cheap, food was cheap. So it was like, why go back? I mean, you get 2 for the dollar. So if I send home $5, that's 10. The quicker I get richer.
But leaving wasn't so easy for Pat. It was more tragic when looking back on her life there. The move was more devastating. It was harder.
When I made a final decision to leave Guyana, I just couldn't stay. It was too ridiculous. It was too stressful. It was simply not, you weren't going anywhere. even you go to school, you get qualified, you just weren't going anywhere. In 1972, when I started working in Ghana, I was paid the equivalent of, after taxes, around, I think around 96 Ghana dollars. At that time, it was about equivalent to about 50 US dollars. And that went so far. I can compare a price of a pair of shoes in Ghana in 1972 was about $8 for a pair of shoes. When I left in 1991, I paid over $1,200 for a pair of shoes, and my salary, that's 1,200 Ghana dollars. And at that time, my salary was around 900 Ghana dollars, which was equivalent to about 23 US dollars when I left. So my salary, instead of going up, went down. And that is after almost 29 years in the public service, in which I went from being a technical assistant to being a senior technician with weather forecasting qualifications. I was practicing weather forecasting in Guyana when I left. I really enjoyed my job. So when the decision to leave Guyana was very difficult, it was so difficult that for years, in fact, I came to the United States the first time in 1987. I spent 2 weeks, and I said, no, I'm going to go back home, because I spent 2 weeks here. I worked 1 week as a babysitter, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm a public servant back in my country. I have respect of, the people. I went back. I was a weather forecaster from 1988 until I left. And
things with Kathy and her sister soon soured, and she eventually struck out on her own. She showed remarkable resilience. Getting jobs and demanding respect was never going to be a problem for her. She describes the first of what would be a string of many jobs she's held while living here in the city.
A family of 4, 2 kids, husband, a wife, and a dog. My sole responsibilities were to take care of the household, cook, clean, take the kids to play dates, or pick them up from after-school programs, prepare dinner. I would stay from Monday to Friday, and I would be off on Saturday and Sunday. I stayed with this family for about 11 months because the lady raised her foot at me, which I thought was not very nice because she wouldn't have done it to her dog or cat. And I left. I just packed up what I had and left. After I was kicked at that first job, I went with a single father and his son, a family in Manhattan, Hicksville, Long Island. Left and went with a family back in Manhattan, husband and wife, 2 kids, boy and a girl. The job was paying, $350 a week. So that was the end of that job. After that job, I stayed home for probably about 7 weeks before I started looking for employment again. I went on quite a few interviews all the way in Westchester, which I didn't take. I had already started looking for something else. And I ended up working for an Asian family in Manhattan. There's a 4 family again with a newborn baby. That job I really hated, but I stuck with it until something better came along. I moved from Manhattan and went to another Manhattan job. These houses and having to deal with the people is a whole nother ball game. whole nother ball game. It's been tough.
When you're working as a babysitter, you know, they treat you as though you're mindless. You don't have any, you don't have a spirit. You know, they treat you as though your spirit is, you're a mindless part of the furniture in their homes, and they can move it to any corner, put it any place.
You don't get the respect. It's always what you can do for them, not what they can do for you. You know? It's like, as I said, a lot of them say, oh, you're part of our family, and you know, anything you want, yeah, but what you really want, they ain't giving you.
What's that?
Money. What you want, they ain't giving you. That's money. You know, like they think you don't know how to spend it or it's too much for you. But I personally would have liked my employer to work for a whole month doing what I do and live off of the same salary and see if she could get it done.
I lived in the longest job I had as a babysitter. I lived in the basement where they stored all their. I had a bed in a corner of the basement. It wasn't a finished basement. I slept next to the washing machine and the dryer. I mean, they weren't separated from me. It was right there. The children, you know, old toys, old everything, they're stored right by my bed. I had no privacy, no, you know, so that is what, you know, compare my life to Guyana.
Being in New York, I didn't think it was gonna be like this, you know? It's like, you're new to everything, but you didn't expect to be treated the way that they treat you. I've had one relative who the employer was sponsoring her and they treated her like a dog. They treated her like a dog. And there's no way I would have put up with the way they were doing. If it was me, there's no way I would have put up with it. I would have left long time, but you know, they were sponsored. Right now I have a friend who was being sponsored by a family in Long Island. And the kids got to an age where she thinks she didn't need a housekeeper anymore, and they were sponsoring her, and they just let her go. Didn't even finish her papers or anything, so she's left hanging.